all the delegates, speakers, and the esteemed participants for this August meeting of a new novel molecule launched, carbetocin, first time in India by Blisson. So I honestly and sincerely from the bottom of my heart thanks the Bilaspur Ops and Gynec Society to give us this chance to be a academic partner in sharing some new highlights in PPH and the new molecules. So with these words, I will definitely welcome our, sorry, the president of Bilaspur Ops and Gynec Society. Words are less, but I will just try to read out the CV. Dr. Professor Sangeeta Raman Jogi, welcome ma'am. Ma'am is a certified master trainer specialist, master trainer of SBA, master trainer of EMOC, master trainer of CCH, IGNOU teaching courses, master trainer of cervical cancer screening, nodal officer, Lakshya, trained coloscopy surgeon, trained hysteroscopy surgeon, member of SOP committee of tuberectomy Chhattisgarh, UG and PG examiner last 14 years, reviewer of PG thesis in 14 years. Publications are number of national and international publications in Index Journal, writer of articles and state and logical magazine, affiliation, president at present of Bilaspur Ops and Gynec Society since past 4 years, vice president of Bilaspur Ops and Gynec Society for 3 years, secretary and joint secretary of Bilaspur Ops and Gynec Society, executive member of IMA and IMS. Community service, lot of social services, conducted many workshops on adolescence health awareness in many schools, health and hygiene awareness in many schools and many diverse women's societies of Bilaspur city, cancer prevention activities, numerous radio programs on women health. Awards, Best President Award for Pradhan Mantri Matritva Suraksha Yojana. So with these words, Ma'am Sangeeta Jogi, I welcome you and the platform is to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
Kavita ma'am, this is Tarun Sen Gupta and I welcome you. We have been in touch for a pretty long time. So I welcome Dr. Kavita Babbar, MBBS MD, Ops Gynec, FICOG, designation Senior Consultant, Apollo Hospital, City Bilaspur, Chhattisgarh. Affiliation, working as a secretary in Bilaspur Foxy for last 4 years, treasurer of Bilaspur Foxy for 2 years, have been active member for last 11 years, active member of IMA Bilaspur, active member of Rotary Club. Awards, Best Paper Presentation in AICOG, Nari Swasth Award in All India Conference, awarded by IMA for Best Worker in Women Health, Times of India Award by Chief Minister. Publication, number of national and international publications in index journals, editor of local health magazine. Special interests to work towards women health, their empowerment and education. In my leisure time, I love to listen to music. And just a personal like insight from my side for Kavita ma'am, she is very, very enthusiastic. Her enthusiasm is so infectious that the person nearing or standing beside him or her, she will be also enthusiased. So welcome, Kavita ma'am.
Thank you so much.
And the platform is to you, Kavita ma'am.
Yeah, I welcome you all to this afternoon session. And it is a very old topic everybody faces in their obstetric practice, and now prevention only went again. It's CME targets towards the prevention aspect. In now today life, no mother should die. At least that motto everybody should keep in their practice. So I like to for the causes of PPH and how to manage. I request our president, she'll be continuing the session and she'll take over the charge. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kavita. Now we will start our session, and the first lecture is causes of PPH. And Dr. Anju Rani Ikka, she will speak on causes of PPH. She is assistant professor in Obstetrics and Gynae department in SEMS Bilaspur in our department, and she is also a nodal officer of maternal mortality and maternal near miss at SEMS Bilaspur, and SBA trainer, member of MBBS skill training team SEMS Bilaspur. Her area of interest are high-risk pregnancy, fetal medicine, and preventive obstetrics. Over to you, Anju. You will start your speech.
Greatest health disparity on earth, and postpartum hemorrhage remains the leading cause of maternal death. Reducing maternal mortality is not just an issue of development, but also an issue of human rights. Now coming to the postpartum hemorrhage fact sheet. Postpartum hemorrhage occurs in approximately 5% of all live births, and despite concentrated efforts, it remains a leading cause of maternal morbidity and mortality. Globally, 22% of maternal mortality is directly caused by PPH, although mortality rates among regions vary significantly. A recent study has reported that the PPH-related death in Africa was 34%, in Asia it was 31%, in the Latin American countries it was around 21%, and the developed countries had the least, that was 13%. Uterine atony is responsible for the majority, that is around 75% of the cases of PPH. Most deaths resulting from PPH occur during the first 24 hours after birth. And the most alarming fact is that 20% of patients who develop PPH have no risk factors, so providers must be prepared to treat it at every delivery. Now coming to our country, India. PPH is a frequent complication of delivery, and its reported incidence in India is 2% to 4% after vaginal delivery and 6% after cesarean section, with uterine atony being the most common cause, present in around 50% cases. This data has been taken from the National Health Portal of India. Maternal mortality ratio in India is 113 per lakh live births in 2016 to 2018 as per the SRS. And postpartum hemorrhage is the leading cause of maternal death in India, and it contributes to around 38% cases of maternal deaths. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, calls for a reduction in global maternal mortality to fewer than 70 deaths per lakh live births by 2030. And in order to achieve this goal, we all require specific attention to postpartum hemorrhage. Now coming to the definition of postpartum hemorrhage. It is defined as accumulative blood loss greater than or equal to 500 ml following vaginal delivery, or greater than or equal to 1000 ml following cesarean delivery, or any amount of blood loss within 24 hours after birth, as evidenced by a rise in pulse rate and falling blood pressure. Now, the PPH can be classified into two types depending upon the time of its occurrence. If it occurs within the first 24 hours of delivery, it is known as primary PPH. And if it occurs from 24 hours to 12 weeks after delivery, it is known as secondary PPH. Now, these are the different definitions which are proposed by the various international and national guidelines, but the most widely accepted definition of PPH comes from FIGO, which we have discussed in the last slide. Now, this is the California Maternal Quality Collaborative Care Postpartum Hemorrhage Risk Factors list. It has categorized the risk factors for PPH into 3 types, depending upon the kind of risk. It is low risk if the pregnancy is singletal, if it is less than 4 previous deliveries, if there is no any previous history of uterine surgery, and no history of postpartum hemorrhage. It is medium risk if it is multiple gestation, if there are more than 4 previous deliveries, if there is a history of prior uterine surgery, if there is large fibroids, if there is infection in the form of chorioamnitis, or if there is magnesium sulfate or prolonged oxytocin administration during the labor. It is categorized as high risk if there is placenta accreta syndrome, if the hematocrit of the patient is less than 30%, if the patient is complaining of bleeding at the time of admission, if the patient is suffering from bleeding diathesis or any coagulation defect, if there is history of postpartum hemorrhage in the past pregnancies, and if the patient is suffering from tachycardia or hypertension. Now, these are the certain common risk factors of PPH which we encounter in our day-to-day practice. It could be due to prolonged labor, if there is grand multiparity, if there is history of PPH, if there is overdistended uterus due to macrosomia or multiple pregnancy or polyhydramnios, if there is any operative delivery, if the patient is having infection due to chorioamnitis, if there is retained placenta, if there is placenta previa, placenta accreta, or any morbidly adherent placenta, if the patient is suffering from hypertensive disorders of pregnancy like preeclampsia, eclampsia, and if the patient has been given general anesthesia. Causes of PPH. Now we remember the 4 T's as we have studied in our MBBS. These are the tone, trauma, tissue, and thrombin. Now we will see the examples of each. The most common cause of PPH is because of tone, that is because of hypotonia or atonia. It is present in around 80% cases, and the examples are uterine atony due to grand multiparity, due to placenta previa because of the poor contractility of the lower uterine segment, due to uterine inversion, and due to uterine overdistension like polyhydramnios, multiple pregnancy, and fibroids. Next comes trauma. It is present in around 20% cases, and the examples are genital tract injury, including broad ligament hematoma, uterine rupture, and surgical causes like cesarean section, angular extensions, and also episiotomy. Then tissue. It is present in around 10% cases. The causes are retained placenta or products of conception. And lastly comes coagulation failure or thrombin, which is present in the least cases, that is around 1%. And the examples are placental abruption, preeclampsia, septicemia, or intrauterine sepsis, and any existing coagulation abnormality. Among all the causes, the most common cause of postpartum hemorrhage is uterine atony that is present in around 70 to 80% cases, which results from poor contraction of the uterus after childbirth. In order to combat atonic PPH, the World Health Organization has recommended active management of the 3rd stage of labor, more commonly known as the AMTSL, for the prevention of postpartum hemorrhage. Active management of 3rd stage of labor, it is a recommended series which includes 3 steps. I repeat, it includes 3 steps. The first is the provision of the uterotonic drug immediately upon fetal delivery. The second is the controlled cord traction, and the third is the massage of the uterine fundus. AMTSL reduces the occurrence of severe PPH by approximately 60 to 70%, and this data is from the Cochrane Database Review 2015. Various studies have been done in order to measure the efficacy of each of these steps, and it has been found that prophylactic administration of uterotonic agents is identified as the most important component of active management of the 3rd stage of labor, and it reduces the incidence of postpartum hemorrhage nearly by 50%. Now, again, this data is from the Cochrane database. PPH after cesarean deliveries. PPH is more likely to happen after cesarean as compared to vaginal deliveries, and approximately 36% of cesarean deliveries are complicated by PPH. And therefore, it is a common practice to give a uterotonic drug following delivery of the neonate during cesarean section. In 2019, the International Consensus Statement on the Use of Uterotonic Agents during cesarean section has stated uterotonic agents like oxytocin, carbetocin are recommended for routine administration immediately after delivery of the fetus during cesarean section to prevent postpartum hemorrhage. Administration of uterotonic drugs or agents are very essential in the third stage of labor for vaginal delivery and also during cesarean section for the prevention of PPH and in order to improve maternal safety. Now, this is the classification of the uterotonic drugs. We have got three classes. The first is the posterior pituitary hormone and analogs. It includes oxytocin and carbetocin. Then the second option we have got is in the form of ergot alkaloids. The examples are ergometrine and methyl ergometrine. And the last classification is of the prostaglandin analogs. We have got misoprostol and carboprost. Among these uterotonic drugs, the first line agents are the posterior pituitary hormone and analogs and or oxytocin or carbetocin, and ergot alkaloids and prostaglandin analogs have been considered as the second line agents. Oxytocin is considered as a gold standard treatment for the prevention of PPH, but oxytocin has got its own drawbacks. Let's discuss them one by one. Oxytocin is short-acting and unstable in heat. The half-life is around 4 to 10 minutes. Duration of action is quite short. It is around 15 to 20 minutes, and it has to be stored in a temperature of 2 to 8 degrees centigrade. It must be administered as a continuous intravenous infusion to attain sustained uterotonic activity throughout the surgical procedure and also in the immediate postpartum period. The second drawback is that oxytocin causes receptor desensitization. It is used as an inducing agent as well as an augmenting agent during the labor, and it may lead to the desensitization of the oxytocin receptors, which impairs the oxytocin's post-delivery effects on uterine contractility, leading to uterine atonicity. The third drawback of oxytocin is that it has got a variation in doses, because various international bodies and trials have used or recommended different doses of oxytocin. Thus, there is no consistency in dose regimen, which results into errors in its administration. And the last but the major drawback of oxytocin is that it has been listed in the high alert medication by the Institute for Safe Medication Practices as minor errors in the dose can cause significant harm to the patient due to hyperstimulation of the uterus, fetal distress, and in some cases, even uterine rupture. Therefore, the need of an hour is we need a molecule, we need a drug which is longer acting, which has got a single dose of administration, and there is no variation in dose regimens, which is devoid of repeated administration, and there is ease of one-time administration, which has got a superior efficacy or similar efficacy as that of oxytocin, which is devoid of receptor desensitization, and most important, which has got a superior side effect profile over oxytocin. No women should die while giving life. With these words, now I hand over the dais to respected Dr. Sumitra Yadav ma'am to proceed the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anju, for such an informative and short and sweet talk. Next, I will request Arun to please share the slide CV of the Dr. Sumitra Yadav, please.
Just give me 1 minute, ma'am.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, ma'am, I've shared.
Now it's Dr. Anju Rani's. Changes to Dr. Yeah, there. Yeah. Welcome, Dr. Sumitra Yadav. She is professor and unit head of Gynae department of MGM Medical College and MYH Hospitals, Indore. She is vice president IOGS and secretary IOGS 2019 and 20. She was organizing secretary of IAGE National Conference 2019, organizing scientific chairperson AICOG 2021, teaching experience of almost 29 years, and TRG member and technical expert and NGO since 13 years, MP State Nodal Officer of Lakshya, Maternal Death Response Surveillance Chairman for Indore Division, Master Trainer in POSCO, and so many others. Member of State Advisory and PNDT Committee, Indore District. Welcome, Madam. Sumitra Yadav, Madam, please share your slide and you will please start the session.
The new drug, that is carbetocin. Okay. Now, carbetocin, as already Ikka has explained about why PPH is important, it is the leading cause of maternal death, and the prevalence in India being almost PPH accounts for a major chunk, more than 50%, 56% of the maternal deaths are due to PPH. Therefore, and she has told you about the basics of PPH, that what is primary PPH, what is secondary PPH, how much is the PPH when you will estimate of following a vaginal or a cesarean delivery. But basic thing that you must be careful about is that the pulse rate, there is a rising pulse rate. Remember, this is the time that you should tackle the PPH, not after the BP falls. Now, we know that the atonic PPH is the one which results in the maximum onslaught on the woman, because tears you can manage, but atonic PPH at times can be really difficult. And she has told you all the risk factors for PPH also, and the other things. So what we wanted was a molecule which was longer acting. The problem we had was we had oxytocin or we had ergometrin. Ergometrin had its disadvantages. I don't know how many of you have used ergometrin. We have used ergometrin in the past in the labor rooms when oxytocin was shifted out and ergometrin was used. Ergometrin was given IV, and that uses we have seen the uses of carboprost, and now we have the newer drug, that is carbetocin. Now, what is carbetocin? If you see carefully what is being shown on this slide, there have been 3 minor modifications on the oxytocin molecule. At one place, the sulfur molecule is reduced. At one place, the bond of H2N is removed. And at one place, the hydroxide bond is removed. And this transforms the oxytocin into the carbetocin molecule. Remember, they are almost identical except for 3 minor changes in the molecule of the oxytocin. Why this has been done is because it increases the half-life of the carbetocin. So oxytocin, while it is there in the body for a very small time, that is maximum 40 minutes, it acts in 4 to 5 minutes, while carbetocin is there for almost 2 days. So this is a distinct advantage that we can have when we are using carbetocin. And therefore, it has been added to the WHO essential medicines list of uterotonics for the prevention of excessive bleeding after childbirth. Okay. And if you see the WHO, next slide please, the WHO recommendations on the use of uterotonics for prevention of postpartum hemorrhage. Basically, there are 5 things in the first category. The recommendation says oxytocin, recommendation 1.1, oxytocin, recommendation 1.2, misoprostol, recommendation 1.3, ergometrin or methyl ergometrin 1.4, and oxytocin and ergometrin in fixed dose combination is 1.5. Now, what they are telling about carbetocin, they are recommending oxytocin and misoprostol. They are not recommending prostaglandins, that is carboprost, and they are recommending carbetocin because where its cost is comparable to other effective uterotonics. Basically, we were expecting this Vanda drug to have been in the market a little long way back, but because of the prohibitive cost, it was not being launched. Now the cost has reduced, therefore carbetocin is recommended as effective uterotonic since 2018 in its WHO guidelines. Now half-life of carbetocin is 40 minutes, which is 10 folds higher than oxytocin. Okay, of oxytocin it was 4 minutes. Now duration of carbetocin is longer than either IV or intramuscular oxytocin. Next slide, Tarun. So whether it is the IV oxytocin or the IM oxytocin, carbetocin is found to be more effective. Even if you are giving continuous oxytocin infusion, single bolus of carbetocin is found to be more effective, and there is no need of repeated administration of carbetocin. What happens with oxytocin? We give, say, 10 units intramuscular, then the uterus is not contracting. So then we start a drip with 20 units oxytocin. Then we think that perhaps it needs to be escalated to 40 units, or we need to add prostaglandins. So therefore, there is no need for repeated administration with carbetocin. Also, there is no dose variation. Basically, it's only a single dose of carbetocin, which is found to be effective in controlling PPH, unlike oxytocin. Therefore, carbetocin is superior over oxytocin with respect to its pharmacological parameters and ease of single dose administration. How does carbetocin work? The next slide, please. Now, there have been many studies throughout the world, in Asia, Africa. The next slide. And in these clinical trials, the management during the third stage of delivery and the prevention of PPH following cesarean delivery, there have been clinical studies comparing oxytocin versus carbetocin and other clinical drugs that can be there. So when we compare carbetocin with oxytocin during the third stage of management during the vaginal delivery, this is from the archives of OBS-GYN, and this has been published in May 2018 as Springer, and the title of the present publication was IV carbetocin versus IV oxytocin for preventing atonic PPH after normal vaginal delivery in high-risk singleton pregnancies, a triple-blind randomized control trial. Next, please. We are going to find out what has happened in the RCT. There were 174 singleton high-risk pregnancy women. And what was the dose of the carbetocin? It was 100 micrograms, and oxytocin was 5 units slow IV over a 1 minute period. Both were given over 1 minute period. And what do we find? The incidence of atonic PPH, because this was given as a third active management of third stage of drugs. So with carbetocin, there was 0 incidence of atonic PPH, while with oxytocin, there was 6.3% chance out of 100, 6.3 had a risk of having atonic PPH. As comparison to postpartum blood loss, carbetocin, there was postpartum blood loss of about 146. Next slide, please. 146 ml. While with oxytocin, there was a blood loss of 195 ml. We can see that we are saving almost 50 ml of blood loss in a normal patient. Then the need of additional uterotonic drugs, carbetocin, we needed any other drug in 9.19 cases, while in oxytocin, we needed another drug in 27%, almost a third of the cases. Therefore, it is proving superiority of carbetocin over oxytocin. Now, prevention of what happens? We have given the drug, but how is it vis-a-vis the postpartum anemia? Out of 100 patients, the hemoglobin was reduced by 9.1%, less than 10% in 9.1 patients, while in oxytocin it was double. It was 18.4% patients who had a hemoglobin below 10%. That obviously when PPH was, oxytocin was not able to control PPH as good as carbetocin. We have seen in the previous slides, the postpartum anemia in singleton pregnancies with at least one high risk factor for PPH, we find that oxytocin led to reduced hemoglobin concentration in the postpartum anemia. The next slide, please, which is comparing the management of the third stage of labor during the vaginal delivery. This study has been done in Bangladesh, and it compares the efficacy and safety of carbetocin in comparison to oxytocin in the active management of third stage of labor following vaginal delivery and open label RCT. So here 110 patients who were single pregnancies, the carbetocin was given 100 micrograms and oxytocin was 10 international units IM. Carbetocin was IV. Now what did they compare? The outcome measures were amount of blood loss in 24 hours, that is primary PPH, massive blood loss, need for additional uterotonic therapy and blood transfusions, and any other adverse events. Now, if you compare the results, in the carbetocin group, there was no primary PPH, while in the oxytocin group, with the double amount, the first study was with 5% of oxytocin, 5 international units, and in this there is 10 international units. And here there is 6.4% of primary PPH. There it was 9%. Now, massive blood loss was none in the carbetocin group, while with oxytocin group it was 8.5%. Immediate blood transfusion was required in 6.4% of the oxytocin group, while it was required in no patient in the carbetocin group. Use of additional uterotonics. This is when we realize that there is more PPH. Obviously, there will be none in the carbetocin group, while in oxytocin group there was almost 11%. The average amount of blood loss, as you can see, it is 325 ml in the carbetocin group, while it is 389 ml in the oxytocin group. Therefore, carbetocin can be considered as a good alternative to oxytocin in the AMTCL following vaginal delivery. Now, coming on to by these two studies, you can see they have compared oxytocin versus carbetocin. Now, this is the third clinical study that is comparing oxytocin and carbetocin, but this is in following cesarean section. And this study has been done and conducted in Africa and has been published in the International Journal of OBGYN. And it is a RCT comparing carbetocin, misoprostol, and oxytocin. They are comparing all the three for prevention of PPH following an elective cesarean delivery. Now, what did they use? They used 100 micrograms of carbetocin, 10 units IV oxytocin following neonatal delivery of, and 20 units. 20 units in 500 ml saline IV for 4 hours after it. Okay, so total dose of oxytocin use was 30 international units, and they compared it with the third group was 400 micrograms of misoprostol used sublingually. Now, the primary outcome was occurrence of uterine atony and necessitating additional uterotonics. And what were the results? It's interesting to see that in the carbetocin group, additional uterotonics required were the least, that is 6%. In the oxytocin group, they were 13%, and in the misoprostol group, they were 22%. The blood loss, as you can see, was the least in carbetocin, followed by the oxytocin. Almost they were neck to neck. But the oxytocin that was used is 30 international units. And the misoprostol, it was definitely more. Bleeding between 500 to 1000 ml, because this is cesarean section. It was 20%. It was in 20% in the carbetocin group. It was 34% in the oxytocin group. And in the misoprostol group, it was 57%. Requirement of blood transfusion was not there in the carbetocin group, but it was there in the oxytocin and the misoprostol group. But as you can see that side effects, there were none in both the groups, but highest in the misoprostol group. We know that with misoprostol, you can have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. And therefore, to conclude that oxytocin with the carbetocin, additional neutrotonics were needed the least as compared to other drugs. Now, coming on to the fourth study, that is carbetocin versus oxytocin. This has again been studied in Africa, and it has been published in the Egyptian Journal of Anesthesia, where they have compared the effect of carbetocin and oxytocin on isoflurane-induced uterine hypertonia in twin pregnancies undergoing cesarean. So you can see that there are 3 risk factors. Now, what did they do? 60 patients, twin pregnancy patients, undergoing electrocesarean section, 100 micrograms of carbetocin, and 20 units of oxytocin in international units were compared both in 10 ml saline. Now, what did they compare in the outcome measures? 1, need of additional uterotonic, that is methargine, blood loss, and requirement of transfusions. Now, additional uterotonic drug was required in 13.3% cases of carbetocin, while in oxytocin it was required in 83.3%. It is almost 5 or even 6 times, more than 6 times higher in the oxytocin group. As you can see, that is a very important thing that we can take a note of. The postpartum blood loss was 437 ml, while it was 721 ml in the oxytocin group. Therefore, it was almost double in the oxytocin group, and the patients requiring blood transfusion was 3 in oxytocin group, in the carbetocin group, while it was 13.3%, almost 4 times in the oxytocin group. Therefore, we can safely conclude that with 3 high-risk factors also, carbetocin is a good alternative for prevention of PPH and the safety of the mother. The 4th clinical study that was done was prevention of PPH following cesarean delivery, and this was conducted comparing carbetocin versus oxytocin and misoprostol together. This was again conducted in Africa, and this was again in patients with high risk factors. This was a randomized open trial study. Okay, and they had 380 patients with risk factors during cesarean section. What did they do? They used carbetocin in the usual dose. And what did they use with the other group? They used 400 micrograms of misoprostol before delivery and 10 international units of oxytocin IV after surgery. And what did they compare? Use of additional, need of additional uterotonic, decrease in hemoglobin, estimated blood loss, incidence of blood transfusion, and adverse effects, if any. Now, what did they find? That in the carbetocin group, the additional uterotonics were required in almost 13.7% cases, while in the O plus M group, it was 16.3%. The estimated blood loss was also higher in the oxytocin plus misoprostol group. And the important thing is the requirement of blood transfusion was significantly more in the oxytocin plus misoprostol group in a ratio of 1:4. Shivering and fever were significantly higher with the oxytocin plus misoprostol group, while no other significant differences were there between other side effects in both the groups. Obviously, carbetocin is superior over the combination with respect to all efficacy parameters with similar adverse effect profile. Now, the 5th study was carbetocin compared with oxytocin plus ergometry. At one time, we used to use this combination also, and 200 women were scheduled for an elective cesarean section, they were assigned to 100 micrograms of carbetocin or 5 international units of oxytocin with a fixed dose combination of 0.2 milligram of ergometrin. Outcome measures were uterine tone, use of additional oxytocics, and the blood loss. Now, what do we see here? We see that the carbetocin was needed with less add-on uterotonics, only 27% required, while in the oxytocin ergometrin group, almost half of them required additional uterotonics. With the carbetocin group, there were only 21% atonic PPH, while with the oxytocin and ergometrin, they had almost double, that is 40% of PPH. Now, with the clinical trials comparing carbetocin with ethyl ergometrin, here carbetocin 100 micrograms and 0.2 200 micrograms of methyl ergometrin was given, and they studied the postpartum blood loss, the duration of the third stage, and the side effects. Now, the PPH was postpartum blood loss was 146 ml with the carbetocin group, while it was 312 with the methyl ergometrin group. Obviously, it is much more than the carbetocin group, and therefore carbetocin is the drug of choice in reduction of postpartum hemorrhage blood loss, and it has more safety and side effects than drugs like methyl ergometrin maleate. Now, what do the Cochrane collaboration are? We always depend on the Cochrane collaboration on the author's conclusion. This is an important thing. Carbetocin resulted in a statistically significant reduction in the need for therapeutic uterotonics compared to oxytocin. So we don't need additional uterotonics. Carbetocin is associated with less blood loss in the prevention of PPH for women who have vaginal deliveries and is associated with significantly fewer adverse effects. So these 3 points are very important. The best point with carbetocin, which I find when I've been reading this, is that after oxytocin is used in cesarean section or carbetocin is used, the efficacy may be similar, but there is reduced pain perception in women with high risk of PPH. What happens is that when we have women who have undergone a cesarean section or even a normal labor, even after the oxytocin is given, because it causes contraction of the uterine muscle fiber in a very intense manner, the woman has pain, and we have to give antispasmodics. So the postoperative pain in the day of the surgery in the carbetocin group was significantly lower in the oxytocin group and remained significant till the third day after cesarean section in 110 women whose elective cesarean section was done, in whom carbetocin was used in the dose of 100 micrograms and oxytocin was used in the dose of 10 international units IV, followed by 20 international units infusion for 24 hours. So definitely these women had less pain with carbetocin group, and therefore these women needed less analgesic drugs and was significantly, they were happier than the oxytocin group. The conclusions were a single dose of carbetocin injection is efficacious and safe on the maintenance of uterine tone and on the limitation of the blood losses in the peri and in the postoperative period. In addition, carbetocin has the advantage that it is able to reduce the pain perception during the postoperative days, improving the quality of life of the woman. So this is an added benefit. As my previous predecessor was telling, that because oxytocin is used in induction of the labor, the receptors may be insensitive to the oxytocin use. So therefore, we have to be very careful in using oxytocin in prevention of PPH. Now, utilization of carbetocin for prevention of PPH after cesarean section, another RCT where 100 micrograms of carbetocin was given over 1 minute period, or 10 minutes of IV infusion of oxytocin was done. And what do the results say? If you compare between the two study groups, additional uterotonic intervention was required in 2 out of 52 women, that is 3.8% of women, while in oxytocin group it was 9.6. The p-value is significant. In women requiring uterine massage, 38.4, while in oxytocin it was like 57.7. Therefore, that is also significant. The mean blood loss was 370 vis-a-vis 400, which was not so significant. And the blood loss also was not so significant difference in both the groups. Therefore, carbetocin is a superior alternative over oxytocin. Thanks to its long half-life, you don't have to repeat the dose. And oxytocin requires repeated infusion or a perfusion over several hours. And therefore, there can be variability of the administered doses. Now, carbetocin versus oxytocin for prevention of PPH in patients with severe preeclampsia. This is one thing where carbetocin needs to be used with caution. 60 women with severe preeclampsia were used, and carbetocin 100 microgram was given in ringer lactate solution 10 ml injected directly into the vein over 2 minutes, and oxytocin 20 units was given in 1 liter of ringer lactate solution administered at the rate of 125 ml per hour. The outcome measures were measure of PPH requiring additional uterotonics. Secondary outcome measures were difference in hemoglobin levels between the two groups, the development of oliguria, its preeclampsia, hemodynamic status, that is mean arterial pressure, and heart rate after the administration of the drug. Now, what do we find? The need of the additional uterotonics is not there in the carbetocin group. The need of the blood transfusion is not there in the carbetocin group. The need of the instrumental curettage of the uterine cavity is very less in the carbetocin group. Therefore, I conclude that carbetocin is an appropriate alternative to oxytocin for the prevention of PPH in women with severe preeclampsia. Considering that it does not have a major hemodynamic effect in women with severe preeclampsia, and that it uses lower volume per dose than oxytocin, it should be considered as a valid option in the management of the 3rd stage of labor in women with hypertensive disorders of pregnancy, and it requires more studies here. Now, if you compare carbetocin with carbaplast, we know carbaplast we have been using very frequently, but it is being used as a second line agent in PPH. We never use it as a first line agent. And it is associated with vomiting, with diarrhea, with incidences of raised BP, and it is contraindicated in asthma. While no such severe incidences are there with carbetocin, and it should be used, only thing is carbetocin should be used with caution in as asthma. Now, management options. Management of the labor and delivery during the 3rd stage of labor, during the vaginal delivery. Now, in patients with singleton delivery, in patients with high-risk pregnancy, and we'll also compare prevention of PPH following cesarean section, the loss in patients of elective cesarean section, in patients of high-risk cesarean section, and in patients of twin delivery. Or in all these places, carbetocin is more effective than oxytocin alone or any other drug. Therefore, carbetocin is proved to be superior over oxytocin and all other oxytocins with respect to. Also, we have seen perception of pain and side effect profile. So we find that it is definitely more effective. Now, these were studies in all over the world. Now, what do we do? What do we find out in the Indian scenario? There is the champion trial where it has been studied in Cuttack, in Karnataka, in Jawaharlal Nehru College, then in B.M. Patil in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, and then it has also been studied in Varanasi. This has been studied in various medical colleges. There are almost 10 medical colleges, 23 centers in 10 countries, including India. And in all this, what have they concluded? Carbetocin proved to be not inferior to oxytocin with the ease of single administration. It is very easy to administer. Now, what do we see? That during the AICOG held in 2019, even in the Savner, it was this carbetocin in atonic PPH was published in this Savner also, and that time we also had inquired programs. It is indicated for prevention of uterine atony and excessive bleeding following delivery, and it is to be administered similar to that of oxytocin after the delivery of the anterior shoulder or after the delivery of the baby. Next, please. The dose remains the same, whether for cesarean section, whether for vaginal delivery. It is 100 micrograms of the dose is to be used in 1 ml, that is 1 ml of the dose is to be administered IV slowly over 1 minute after the delivery of the infant, both in vaginal and in the cesarean section. This will be used as the active management of the third stage of labor, and it has good results as you have seen. To summarize, carbetocin is superior to oxytocin in prevention of PPH, blood loss after delivery, need of additional uterotonics in the fall of hemoglobin levels, need of blood transfusion, pain perception and side effect profile. It is superior to ergot alkaloids, also in prevention of blood loss, additional uterotonics, need of blood transfusion and better side effect profile. The same holds true with the second line drug, that is carbaprost and misoprost is the first line. But the drawback of prostaglandin analogs is they are the second line agents. We need multiple doses, and it is not recommended by WHO as the first line drug, and it is associated with significant increase in vomiting and diarrhea. I thank you very much for such a patient listening by the Bilaspur group. I'm really honored to be present there and wish to thank both the president and secretary, as well as the Carbicin group, the Blissin group, to have given me this chance to speak here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Sumitra Yadav ma'am, for introducing such a wonder drug for the management of third stage of liver, especially management of PPH and prevention of PPH. And do you have any personal interaction of this drug?
Yes, I have used this drug once, and it is very good. There's been no problem with the use of this drug. The patient was comfortable. I have only used one till now because of this. Right now, as you know, it's all lockdown, and we have cut down on our patient load in the private. In the medical college, of course, we cannot use it right now till it is supplied in the government supplies. First, let me have some trials on my own patients, then I'll be using it in the government setup. But it is, I've been really comfortable with it. I'll be using it shortly on 13th for a patient of mine. I shouldn't be disclosing, but of course, she's a twin pregnancy patient. She has had a previous cesarean, which was a vertical cesarean section at Kanpur, Allahabad. I'm not somewhere in UP, and she's a high risk. Where she has some amount of preeclampsia also, and there is another thing which I cannot disclose, which makes her even more further at risk. So I'll be using that drug and this drug on 13th. And if need be, I'll definitely forward my experience to all of you.
Yeah, please, madam. Sure, we will please share this results of your ongoing studies with us. Then we will use. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an informative talk. Thank you so much.
There's some problem with the electricity in this area, so I was not able to share my slides. You can see it's the inverter is coming.
Any questions from the audience, please? Anyone? If you, Dr. Madam is here, if you want to ask any question. Dr. Kavita, Dr. Anju, any other, Dr. Dubey ma'am, anybody? There is no
There
question?
are two things. There are two things. Either everybody was sleeping after a good lunch on Sunday, or
Maybe.
they know the thing.
No. They will.
Ma'am, we would like to know the price of carbetocin.
It's around 300, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's not that exorbitant.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Earlier it was more when I had inquired, and it's been brought down.
So I think this Bless on Pharma will provide us with a little bit less cost. If
Study you are doing, you are using as a prophylactic or for treatment?
Kavita, I think Kavita, you are not audible. Kavita,
Yeah, hello. Am I audible?
very little.
No, actually, I wanted to ask Madam ki the study which she's doing for prophylaxis or she's doing for treatment of PPH?
Hello, I couldn't get the question. It was the voice is very faint.
I think Kavita ma'am wants to know whether the study is being done for the prevention of PPH or for the treatment of PPH.
No, prevention. I'm just doing it. I'm not using any other drug because we have plenty of statistics for use of oxytocin. We keep using it. I'm just doing it because right now I have not taken any. This is my own thing that I'm doing. But how much is it really significant? So I've used it in one normal labor patient. Now I'll be using it in a high risk patient. Okay. Extremely, and she has 3 risk factors.
And you said only one risk factor is there that we can use in asthma. Right?
Asthma and also eclampsia. See, I'll tell you one thing. In severe preeclampsia and asthma, there have been no good studies that have taken place. If you were listening to my lecture, I told you that although in Africa they have said that we can use it, but there is only one study, so we have to use it with caution.
That means more and more studies to be needed.
Yeah, we require more and more studies.
The exact effect of this drug.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a new drug, so you can see that it on the face it is appearing good. When I've used it, it's appearing good, but with one case you cannot say that it is a good. You must have a good number of cases, and of course I think that because basic drug structure remains the same. Basic drug structure of oxytocin is same to the carbetocin, so I feel that it will be. This is my hunch. Not much has been changed. It is only for the long life that they have changed.
Yeah, I have heard your lecture completely, so I know that. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think there is no other question, so I just call Dr. Kavita for the vote of thanks.
thank you very much for inviting me and bearing me on a Sunday.
I want to thank everybody.
Kavita, you are not audible at all. Okay, I will give the vote of thanks because Kavita is not honorable. I will thank Dr. Anju and Dr. Sumitra and all the audience here, and also the Blisson Pharmaceuticals for providing this platform for us. And thank you so much everyone for taking time in this Sunday afternoon. And we have a great meet. We have almost 50 participants in this CME. So thank you all and thank you so much and bye-bye.